from Guadalajara, Mexico. You hear my accent. I'm actually Scottish. I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland, but I find myself in the tequila business, and I look after all business development. So what does that mean? I look after all export markets. So this is a brand that's been around for 60 years, but only ever sold in one region of Mexico. And we're now expanding out. So we're in the UK, we're in the US, we're in Canada, we're just about to go to Australia, and we're looking at other export markets. So I look after all of that and all the global marketing and the expansion in our domestic market as well here in Mexico.
Amazing. So I imagine in Mexico, not much education is needed around tequila. I'm imagining most people know enough, but what are the main things that you need to sort of educate people more globally about the sector as a whole?
You'd actually be surprised in Mexico. You can still educate a lot of people on tequila, even though they drink it. It's their national beverage. But really, in a global scale, we always make sure that people's kind of perceptions of tequila are changing a lot. If I go back kind of 16, 17 years, it was the party, smash it down and get wasted kind of spirit. And since over the past 10 years, there's been a lot of effort put into educating people and making them understand that tequila isn't just the spirit to shoot. It's a really complex spirit with a lot of effort and time put into the production. And so really that's one of the big things when we're educating people in our brand and the category as a whole. We want to make sure that people understand what tequila is, where it comes from, the differences in different tequilas, the differences in production methods, how that can impact flavor of your tequila, and just show that it's a craft product.
Yeah. So when someone comes to you and says, "Oh no, tequila gives me a massive headache. I can't drink tequila," what's your response to that? Because it's quite a classic line that I've heard a lot.
It is a real classic, and when people, and it does come up, and really we have to tell them that they're drinking either the wrong tequila or actually the majority of the time is what they drink the tequila with. So, when a lot of people are drinking super sweet cocktails or with sweet mixers, it's the sugar in the mixers that really can cause you the hangover more than the actual spirit itself.
And I think the other thing that people like to say is, oh, I don't like the taste of tequila. And I think the biggest thing there is that there isn't one taste, is there? I mean, I think lots of people aren't aware of the different sort of expressions of tequila that there are.
Exactly. And that's another thing. So you just hit the nail on the head there. When people say, I don't like the taste of tequila, it's kind of, well, what if you only tried one type of tequila? There's obviously we've got to educate them, and there's Blanco, there's Reposado, there's Añejo, there's Extra Añejo, and all those subcategories of tequila have a different influence on the flavor because of wood aging, etc. And there's also there was so many factors that influence the flavor of tequila, and the first thing is the raw material. So tequila is made out of the blue agave. By law, you have to use the blue agave. But where the blue agave is grown has a different influence on the flavor of your tequila. So if I give our brand as an example, El Tequileño, our brand is produced in the town of Tequila, where the name comes from. But that's in the Tequila Valley. And all around in the valley, there's agaves. When you drive to the town of Tequila, you just see a sea of blue agave everywhere. And, if we took our agave from there, it'd take us 15 minutes to get the agave to our distillery. We don't use any of that agave. We take it from the Los Altos region 4 hours away. And the reason being is the terroir. You talk about wine and terroir and grapes. It's the same with agave. So in the Los Altos region, we get a more naturally sweet, more fruity and floral flavor coming out in our tequila. Whereas if we took the tequila all around our distillery, it's more earthy and vegetal in the flavor. So, that's the first thing that impacts. Then you've got each stage of the process that can impact, and then you've got aging that can impact. So that the variety in tequilas is, there is the blue agave flavor comes out, and that can fluctuate. But overall, tequilas can be so different. You know, our tequila and our neighbor next door, completely different. So it really comes down to education.
And I think as well, people are really surprised when they find out how long it takes to make tequila. I think, I think there's a misconception there in terms of, I would say it's more expensive spirit than other. You can buy probably a premium vodka or a premium gin for probably less money. But I think, that's the other thing. And people think, oh, it's expensive, but there's that misconception that you make it quickly and it's
Well,
actually slow, isn't it?
that you're right. So normally, just talking about the agave plant, you've got to wait 6 to 7 years now for it to mature. There are other processes in the tequila business. Some of the larger brands use a uh, very fast process, has a high yield, efficient, as the word I was looking for, a very efficient process. And they harvest agaves at 2 or 3 years old. But I would use the analogy that if you have a green banana and you have a banana on some black spots on it, one's mature with natural sweetness and one's kind of young and green. And that's kind of the same thing with agave. So for our tequila and many brands, you can only use mature agave 6 to 7 years old. So that's, first of all, you've got a long undertaking just waiting for this raw material to grow. And it's especially more expensive right now because agave price is just insane. So you go back 6 years ago, agave price was around 3 to 5 pesos a kilo. Now it's 28 to 31 pesos a kilo. So it's it's really shifted, and that has actually a profound effect on a lot of tequilas, and some producers have actually not made it through the pandemic, especially because of the impact of COVID on sales, but also as a small brand, but also the price of agave. It's just priced some people out.
And I guess also because the demand's gone up so much, you've got people trying to cut corners, which then has the effect, which, as we know, on like the ecosystem, on so many other things, like sustainability has become a really big talking point around tequila, hasn't it? And like sort of, especially in I think in the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of people doing good things actually in the tequila business. But there's also, what a lot of people, what I would say when it comes to sustainability, is that I would say globally, especially the trade, more than consumers, they need to be educated on what actually that means in the tequila business, because there's two main byproducts in tequila production. One is the fibers from the agave plant. So when you get your agave, you got to cook the agave to convert the sugars. You then mill the agave, so it goes through kind of these roller mills with water on top to extract the sugars. So you end up with what you call as agua miel, which is like a honey water, agave juice, and then the fibers are one of the byproducts. So that's kind of waste. You then go to distillation, and in distillation you have the stillage, which is, we call it vinyasas in tequila, and there's about 10 liters of vinyasas per liter of tequila. So, and what's really interesting about vinyasas is it's so in trying to get not too technical, but in distillation in most spirits, methanol comes off first. It's a very light alcohol in molecular wise, and so it evaporates first. In tequila, it comes off last, and it's because of concentration and distillation, whatever. But what you end up with is this, in this stillage, is a lot of methanol and a lot of these really heavy chemical compounds. So it's a really complicated, like kind of chemical compound liquid that's at the end. So it's really difficult to get rid of. But what people don't talk about, and what we know in the industry, is a lot of producers dump it in local waterways, and nobody kind of talks about it. It's like, ugh, and it kills everything. Everything is really poisonous. And we make a big effort at our distillery. We actually take the fibers and we take the stillage, and we have a whole compost facility right next to our distillery, where we combine the two and we rotate it daily, and we make our own compost. And in that compost, we take back to the agave fields, and then we fertilize the agave fields with our own compost. And we also grow, we have a hotel, in our distillery as well, and we also grow our own vegetables. So that's kind of right now, that's one of the things we're doing in terms of trying to be sustainable and give back. And we're actually working further on the water preservation um, in the area of tequila as well, trying to make sure that we look after the water source that we take from. So we're doing a bunch, and a lot of other distilleries as well are now upping their game and really trying to work out, how they, how we how we give back, basically. So they're doing a lot of research into agave reproduction and how growing agaves impacts the environments in the field. So there's a lot of good stuff being done. We don't really, in the tequila business, nobody's really talking about it a lot. It's kind of, I don't know why, it's no reason, but there's a lot of good stuff being done, but there's also still some bad stuff being done, and we take a big effort to not be involved in any of the bad stuff.
No, it's good. It's good to hear about the innovation stuff. I think it's really interesting. And what kind of other innovations have been happening in tequila? How has it been changing? This is a very traditional brand we're talking about here that's come through from sort of the 50s through to now. Like what would you think at the moment are the big innovations happening?
Well, overall, if I use a comparison, it's like Scotch whiskey. Um, in Scotch whiskey, it's all about aging. You think of whatever Glenfiddich 21, Glenlivet 18, whatever, different barrels. That's a big kind of innovation push in tequila. So tequila, in terms of aging, we're still very young in that part of the spirits category. So you see more and more a lot of innovation on the side of aging, whether it's aging in a Sauterne barrel, or you've seen Ocho Tequila has different ranches that they make their tequila from, and then the age, and so really there's a lot of innovation in that respect. Even with Tequileno, aging is, we've done a lot of innovation. We have our Reposado Rare, which is very interesting because it's a 6-year-old Reposado, which is kind of is the first Reposado Rare to be aged that long, and so really that's a big thing in the tequila business. There's also the Cristalino category, which was I guess it was maybe for tequila purists, it's controversial, but really it's a category that's growing so big in Mexico and in the US, and I'm sure that will impact it globally soon. But that's again an aged product, could be reposado, añejo, extra añejo, and then they filter to remove the color and soften it, remove the tannins and soften it. So you have a crystal clear tequila that's been aged. And as I said, tequila purists kind of turn their nose up and say, I don't like this. It took me 4 months to persuade my master distiller Tony to produce one, and he did, and it's delicious. But also one thing that doesn't really get spoken about a lot in the industry, and recently there was two kind of things that happened in here, was that I don't know if you ever heard of tastetequila.com or the tequila maker Grover and Scarlett are friends here in Guadalajara, and they do a lot of research in tequila, and they write articles. And they did an additive free program. And so what's in the tequila business, you're allowed to add 1% of additives, which can be like oak extract, caramel, it can be glycerine. So but what's not regulated is the concentration of that 1%. So people are adding really high concentration of like glycerine. So to a consumer drinking some of these tequila products, they taste and go, "Ooh, that's nice and smooth." But actually it's kind of being masked because it's glycerine that's been added or whatever. They're doing nothing wrong. It's completely legal and is following the rules of the CRT, and tequila after cognac is the most regulated spirit in the world because it has a denomination of origin and it has the CRT. You can't do anything without permission of the CRT. You plant agaves, you got to tell the CRT, they got to see it, they got to know how many are there, they take photographs, they give you a certificate. You can't harvest without a certificate. You can't produce every stage of production, you've got to have a certificate. So they really look over it so that nobody's doing anything wrong adding additives. But from our side, for Tequileno and there's some other brands, we don't add any additives to our tequila, so everything comes from the plant. And when going back to talking about the innovation in this Cristalino with Tequileno, we made a Cristalino with no additives, which as far as we know, we're the only one. So so it's again more innovation there. And another innovation that I would say in the tequila business that I'm seeing more and more are RTDs, ready to drinks. So like canned cocktails, etc. And I don't know if that was just the impact of COVID and seeing like the hard seltzer market kind of boom, but certainly in the past year, I've seen a lot of kind of independent brands popping up in the RTD sector that include tequila in them. So that's a category that's fairly big in Mexico actually. Um, so kind of now that category is growing in the US, and I don't know if you know much about Australia, but in Australia that category is huge, absolutely huge. So there's another way of tequila promoting itself and growing volume.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe they're just taking it all to the beach or something in Australia.
Exactly. That's why they do it. Ultimately, I mean, if you see any big brand, any big spirits brand, they all have ready to drinks in Australia because it's such a big thing.
Yeah, interesting. I prefer someone else to make my mixed drinks. I like cocktail, which actually brings me to that. I guess that's another area where traditionally people think margarita, and that's all they kind of think of in terms of like the mixing. And how I feel like that's changing a lot, and people's perceptions of what you can drink with tequila are changing.
No, 100%. And actually, London's a great example. And I worked in London for a number of years. And if you go back, well, first of all, there's two things. From the traditional shooting, consumers are now learning more and more to sip and savor and enjoy a neat spirit of tequila, a neat expression of tequila. But also, in terms of cocktails, it's not just the traditional margarita now. You go to the top bars and restaurants in London, the Nomad Hotel is about to open up, I see, and Three Sheets and whatever. You go to all these places, you'll have a really amazing complex cocktail with tequila, and I think that's bartenders especially, they've learned so much in the past 10 years, and London really especially is a great example because the level of industry there, the level of skill of the bartenders there. If I think of Ago Peroni at the Connaught, etc., these guys they're experts in their field, and they don't just pick up a spirit and start mixing. They want to know every single thing about this product, and tequila has really boomed a lot because they see all the different flavors that can come out and different influences that can make on their cocktails, and you just get such great cocktails now with tequila.
Yeah, I went to one in East London, a place called Hatcher this week, and they do like a mirror margarita, which is amazing.
Yeah, the mirror margarita.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dino's a really good friend of mine.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I interviewed him for this piece, and because I wanted to get that cocktail in, because I think that's like a great example of just.
Well, many moons ago, at the top of Brick Lane, there was a bar called Green and Red, which really was like it was the first tequila cocktail bar really in Europe. I mean, there was nothing else at that time, and it was started by Henry Besant, the late Henry Besant, and Dre Masso, who were two big, still both. Dre's still around, but they were two of the biggest guys in the London cocktail scene, and I was a general manager of Green and Red, so that's how that kind of got me into tequila. And we had everybody from all over the world who come and visit us, and we had some of the best cocktails, and that's how it just kind of, for those people, the consumers that are still a little scared of tequila, it makes it accessible because they taste a delicious cocktail and they go, oh, that's with tequila. That was really nice. Oh, I like tequila now. So it's another way of getting consumers in on the category.
Yeah, that's kind of what Dino was saying, and more people were coming in just saying, look, I'm not really a tequila drinker, but give me something, show me something, and just sort of much more willing to experiment. And I find it with my friends, if I offer them a drink and they want a gin and tonic, I'm like, have you tried a tequila and tonic? Because I drink, that's all I really drink. So, and then I think by giving them a drink that they're familiar with, but just with a different spirit, and then they're like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, funnily enough,
And in this kind of, I've seen we'll say the craze, the trend, we'll call it, of low calorie, kind of healthier. I say healthier. I mean, drinking alcohol, I guess, is still not healthy, but healthier option. Tequila is your one. I mean, if you drink good tequila, um, with soda or tonic, or you like, you don't end up with a hangover, and it's all to do with the sugars, because the sugars in most other spirits is glucose. So and when you mix it with anything, then your blood sugar level goes whoop all the way up, and then poof, you crash, and you get a hangover. But with tequila, and that's what kind of the phrase tequila makes you happy, because it's fructose is the main sugar, and so your body can break it down at a much nicer rate. So that's why, like, people always talk about this kind of tequila high when you're always smiling and stuff, because your body can actually um, convert the sugars at a better rate. So it's kind of better for you.
I definitely noticed that, because if I only drink tequila, as I said to people, if you've got a headache at the end, it's probably because you had, 7 pints and then a couple of glasses of wine and then beforehand. Then it's like, it's not the tequila that did it.
Exactly.
It's the full onslaught. I think that kind of covers the end. Actually, I'll just ask you a little bit more about your Reposado Rare, just to highlight that as one of your kind of innovative things that you're doing. Like, I mean, what was that idea? Did you specifically want to create something that was more aged? Did it come about by accident? Did it come out from demand? Like, how did it?
Yeah, so it kind of came about by accident, but so the Sayas family that have produced Tequileno for over 60 years, 62 years now. We've got Tony Sayas as our third generation distiller, and his father's still involved as the kind of master blender, looks after the bottling facility. So we have a product called Gran Reserva Reposado, and the Gran Reserva Reposado we age for 8 months, and then we blend it with some añejo. So what happened was, and we also, just so you understand, we age it in really large barrels that like range from 5,000 liters to 30,000 liters. They're called pipones, and they're just really big. And the reason the family always wanted to had preference on aging their Blanco and Reposados in these barrels is that you get less wood to liquid ratio. So you still get some wood influence, but really you're allowing the agave to shine. So all the natural sweetness of the tequila is still there, but you get a little bit. Whereas when you age in smaller kind of 200-liter ex-bourbon, which is very common, those barrels, you get much larger wood to liquid ratios. So the wood and the tannins start to take over more. So the family always aged in that way. And Antonio Sr. started aging the Gran Reserva Reposado, and it got to 8 months. And his son said, okay, well, this is ready. We need to bottle. And he went, oh, I just want to leave it a little longer. A year went by, and they said, okay, it's a year. What do you want to do? And he went, I want to leave it a little longer. A year and a half went by, and Tony tells the story. He said he went back to his father and said, this is a year and a half. What do you want to do? And he went, stop bloody asking me. I'll tell you when it's ready. And then they just forgot about it. And so, after 6 years, they opened up the barrel, and it's kind of, wow, 6 years, this barrel. Let's taste it. And it was just absolutely it was fantastic tequila, because it was amazing is when you age a tequila for 6 years in a 200-liter barrel, it can be a really great spirit, but like I just said, the wood overtakes everything. So it's like a really rich cognac kind of in flavor, but because it aged in this pipon, it was still so soft and naturally sweet and a lot of agave. But you couldn't call it an extra añejo, even though it was 6 years. We couldn't call it extra añejo, and we couldn't call it añejo, because the law requires you to age in barrels of 600 liters or less. So even though it was twice the length of what an extra añejo normally is aged for, which is minimum 3 years, we had to call it a reposado, because a reposado is a minimum of 2 months, but there's no age restriction, and there's no restrictions on the size of the barrel. So we called it Reposado Rare. And there was only 20,000 bottles produced, and we've sold 11,000 bottles in the past 7 months. It's just gone crazy. Mostly in the US. It's just like people can't. It retails about $225 a bottle. So I'm assuming it will be around in the UK about £185. And it's just, they can't keep it on the shelf. People just love it. And it's won a ton of awards, got double gold at San Francisco World Spirits. And so we thought it'd be like a 5 to 6 years worth of inventory. It's a high priced product, limited edition. And it's just, now we're kind of going, whoa, it's a good problem to have.
A happy mistake. Happy accident.
But that once it's gone, it's gone. We're not making
Yeah.
another. So we kind of, we all made that decision that we liked the fact that it was limited. We liked the fact that it was a special edition, and we didn't jump and start filling other barrels and saying for the future. We're kind of like, there's other things, other innovation stuff that we're looking at, and like I said, it's just so interesting with aging, the influences, and with our añejo, we actually, Tony and his father collaborated with Randy Olam, who's a master winemaker of Kendall Jackson wine, and he's a master at aging. So the three of them got together and made an exceptional añejo through their different expertise and looks. So there's so many things you can do. It's kind of it's exciting. I'm not in charge of production, but I get fully involved when I'm asked to go and taste.
Absolutely, it's good perks of the job.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm sure. It sounds great. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been really interesting and super helpful. So thank you very much for your time. And yeah, I'll make sure you get to see our article once I've done it. Got a few more bits to do.
Enjoy some of our tequila.
Yes, I know. It just arrived actually today, so I've got it in my house ready to try this weekend. Perfect.
Can I tell you quickly about the two that I sent you?
Yes.
So the Blanco, in the tequila business, there's regular tequila and there's mixto tequila.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's regular tequila, which is called mixto.
Yeah.
And there's 100% agave tequila. Now, what you'll find is everybody goes on and on about 100%, only drink 100% agave, only drink 100% agave. That's the best. And everybody thinks mixtos are bad.
Yeah.
Real phrase is a well-made mixto is better than a badly made 100% agave. And the Blanco that you've got there is, and normally mixtos by law have to be a minimum 51% agave, 49% other sugars.
Yeah.
Our Blanco, the one that you've got there, is 71% agave and 29% piloncillo, which is this little handmade, unrefined byproduct of sugar cane. It's like little cones of sugar. And so it's really rich, a lot of agave, and it's also the third highest sold Blanco tequila in the region of Jalisco. Everybody in Jalisco has that in their house. It's like, if you go to every bar in Guadalajara, you will find El Tequileño Blanco. It's like, and it's also really famous because in the town of Tequila, there's a bar called La Capilla, which was rated in the world's top 50 bars for 4 years in a row from 2011 to 2015. And they make a signature drink called La Batanga, which is Blanco tequila, Coca-Cola, lime, and salt rim, and they stir it with a knife. But for 60 years, the house tequila and the tequila of that drink is El Tequileño Blanco. So everybody in the industry, every tequila enthusiast that's ever gone to the town of Tequila, they all go to that bar, they've all drank El Tequileño Blanco. So it's a really, really famous product, and it's well known its quality. And then the second one is our Reposado, kind of our entry-level Reposado, which is aged for 3 months.
Yeah.
That's 100% agave, and it's aged for 3 months in one of those large pipons. And that's won more awards than any of our tequilas. And it's very, very soft and fruity and a lot of sweet. So those two, enjoy them.
I'm excited to try.
And I think we're going to get you some rare as well. Some Reposado rare should be on its way to you.
Amazing.
You can try that as well. So
perfect. Oh, that sounds great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I will enjoy. It's Friday as well, so I can crack them open.
Indulge.
Thanks again for your time. Take care.
Take care.
Morgan.
Bye.
Bye. Let's stop recording. Oh God, I haven't stopped it. Hold on this computer.
Are you recording the video or just the audio?
The video as well. The video and
audio. All right, hold on. I got to get my, my models. placement.
Get them displayed right.
Exactly. That's awesome.
That's good. Oh, well, thanks for talking to me, as I said. So basically the two focuses of my piece are really like innovations in tequila and sort of myth busting. And I don't know whether internationally we're just way behind, or do you think education is still important with tequila in the States as well? Is it something you have to still consider and think about?
No, it's still, I think people are beginning, it's changed a lot in the last, say, 10, 15 years. And we've been in the tequila business for quite a long time. And in the last, I would say when we first started, when you think back maybe 15 years ago,